Search is dying and AI has already taken over. If your brand isn't showing up inside answer engines like ChatGPT, you're already invisible. This is the AEO Show, the podcast that teaches you how to become the answer in the age of AI. Every episode breaks down what's working right now to get found in a zero-click world. Listen now and join the free forever community at aeo.co/free. Welcome back to the AEO Show. This is Kasim and Julian. Julian's the head of research over at AEO.co, also the author of our best-selling book, which incidentally was the #1 selling book in the English-speaking marketing world across 3 of the toughest categories. No big deal. I'm pretty excited about today's topic because I think we're going to set fire to a lot of things and maybe piss off a lot of people, and that might be one of my favorite things to do. What do you think, Julian?
Yeah, you excel at that. So
It's one of my superpowers. Today we're going to talk about reporting in the world of AEO, or more appropriately, the fact that there really is no reporting. And here's what I want to say. I'm not trying to be a contrarian for the sake of it. So if you own one of the reporting tools, and incidentally, I have friends that own reporting tools, I would be very interested in having an open and honest discussion on the podcast. We'd have you on the show as long as you'd be willing to let us kind of poke at you, to be honest with you, and ask the hard questions, because these are really, really hard questions. I'll posit the thesis the way I understand it, Julian, and then you fix it. You protect me from myself. There is no such thing as objective reporting as it pertains to answer engines. And the reason for that is, unlike search engines that really did have some level of objectivity, for example, Google Search Console would tell you, hey, for this phrase, you rank roughly in this position. Answer engines are contextual machines. So the same question asked by similar people in similar regions with similar backgrounds could yield wildly different answers based off of 1 or 2 or 3 variances. You could be demographically and psychographically the exact same, carbon copies, twins, but you're a Cowboys fan and he's a Steelers fan, or you're gay and she's straight, or you're old and you know what I mean? Like there's like one little teeny tiny, and I realize that some of those aren't teeny tiny, right? So like, but really any nuance, including just the way that you've chosen to use your answer engine. You know, like for example, I've used my ChatGPT for, interestingly, and maybe this is a little embarrassing, but we'll go here. I've used it for relationship counseling. I've like asked it, you know, am I crazy or is my girlfriend crazy, basically? So, but that conversation yields context. And then, so then if I ask about, who knows what, a coffee shop or a vacation, ChatGPT has context about me that it uses in order to customize the results that I get. So if you take that and you accept it, and I think everybody has to, because that's how they work, there's no way. And I mean, that's what I want somebody to fight me on. I want one of these reporting tools to hop on the podcast and tell me I'm wrong. There's no way to factor rank at all, because what I understand they're doing is the equivalent of search engine crawling. You know, if you're trying to figure out how somebody's ranking on a search engine, all these tools, like I paid for, you know, Rank Watch and all that stuff, they would just crawl Google asking that question with the ghosted IP address from a random location that was semi-relevant and say, well, based off of that crawl, you're number 4. So we think you're number 4. Or maybe they do it a handful of times and average it out. You can't do that with ChatGPT because you can't control for context at all. Or at least I don't think they can. I mean, maybe they are if you serve a very specific demographic. You know, like you're a counselor specifically for divorced veteran males over 50. You could suddenly maybe train a GPT on that context and start to give people closer snapshots. But I don't think anybody's doing that. How did I do articulating the problem? Would you add to that?
Yeah, well, that's essentially it. There's so many. I think you could see it in the light of that this is effectively a problem, or maybe that's also the huge possibility that you are able to reach more people in as much detail as you want. But that's also kind of the bigger challenge when you're talking about tracking or showing results. The key thing I think we need to understand is the black box fact that the AI works only on the user's perspective. Like the information that happens, it's only visible on the device that is actually being requested, because the compute and the processing goes directly to the user. But also I think there's another route, but that's specifically on the cloud, on the server that is processing that information. There was recently a study by ChatGPT that they actually reported on what people use ChatGPT, how they use it for. So they kind of anonymize the information, but you could see that they are able to access the information in any way, but they are not just about to give that out uh, easily in the same way that Google is not sharing that information, that data.
That's another really good point, which is it's really against, and not just ChatGPT, but we'll just to center the conversation, let's use them for a moment. It's against ChatGPT's interests to allow us or assist us in reverse engineering how they're coming up with these answers. Like the process that we're calling AEO is misaligned with their endeavor, right? They don't want us to be able to game this, obviously. The same way
Mhm.
search engines didn't really want us to be able to game rank. You know,
Exactly.
and there was some collusion there because there were some areas where interests actually aligned. But with answer engines, I don't think there's much of any. It's like they've got a vault and secret sauce and they don't want us to touch it. So why on earth would they give us any tips of the hat, including whether or not we're ranking contextually otherwise?
Exactly. That's kind of the name of the game, is figure out how do they come up with the answers and how we can get there in any capabilities that we have. I have an interesting take on that. I think back on SEO times, the this cat and mouse game only could lead you to earn Google traffic, because that's the only thing that you aim for. You try to rank higher and higher and on only Google. But with AEO, I envision this as a next level marketing strategy that includes all of organic approaches. I think if you are looking to push your brand on the places that matter for AI, you're also showing up there where people are already looking for. So you are doing brand brand recognition. You're doing a lot of things that need to be done either way.
Press releases, social reviews, what's the case studies? It's
Exactly.
kind of AEO is really just it's high level branding. It's all the things that you should have been doing for the last 30 years and you just haven't
Exactly.
been. With some technical, like the schema thing. The schema
Exactly.
thing is irrefutable. Some idiot sent me, actually, it wasn't an idiot who sent it to me. One of my friends sent me this article written by an idiot. And the idiot said, schema makes no difference, makes no impact. Everybody's saying schema's full of it. And I went and I pursued the idiot's resume. And the idiot was an SEO who provided SEO services. And in the article, continued to talk about how not schema, but all these other things, which, surprise, surprise, she can do for you. And I'm
Yeah.
like, 95%, correct me if I'm wrong about this, William, 95% of all answer engine citations in our data, which is tens of millions of citations across multiple different LLMs, 95% have schema, and 85% have validated schema,
Mhm.
which means all of them adjusted for margin of error have schema, and most of them have validated schema, and only 12.4% of websites on the internet have validated schema. So that's one of those things that I'm just like, I don't think there's an argument there. Schema is what allows for visibility. And then after schema, which I call step 0, right? It's not a step to optimization. It's just like, hey, open the window so they can see. And then once they see it, doesn't mean they're going to like what they see.
Mhm.
That's when we talk about these subsequent steps. So would you fight me on anything I just said?
Yeah, that's exactly right. That there's just a survival instinct kicking on the SEO people that you can
Dude.
smell in all of the discussions.
Yeah.
They're just too defensive about their SEO thing. But either way, things need to evolve, and they are the first ones to tell you that Google is just screwing them up in the worst way possible, pushing organic results further and further down. They are even summarizing the meta descriptions. They are not using the meta description that you provide. They are not using their own meta description. They're summarizing the content in the meta description. They don't
Yeah.
want you to even
Dude, they
hover.
prioritized meta a long time ago. I remember that. I remember meta descriptions used to be one of the biggest levers we could pull because Google basically used them wholesale for, there was the blue link, which was your title. It was your page title. And then the meta description was a way for you to seed information that you really wanted to use to catalyze the clicks. And then when Google stopped using the meta description, they started using content from the page. I remember that was a huge problem because CTR went down really substantially. And to be honest with you, it should have. And the reason they did it is because everybody's meta description was like so much more attractive than the page was. So a lot of this is our fault. We break things, and I like that you called it a cat and mouse game, because that's exactly what it is. But I want to go back to the reporting discussion. Here's the issue we run into. And Julian and I are trying to offer AEO services on a trial basis with a collection of guinea pigs that are willing to understand that this is a test and there's no promises. And at the same time, while we're doing that, there's all these other companies running around claiming to be, world experts in AEO and guaranteeing results and offering reporting. And I'm just looking here, and I just feel like, what do they know that I don't know? Because from where I'm sitting, you can't report on this shit at all. None of these reporting tools could work at all. And the best we have from a reporting perspective, so maybe let's talk about that. There's no ability to report with context in mind. So take that and put it on a shelf, but you can report on things like click-throughs on citations via UTM tracking. And what that means, if you're not familiar, is if somebody asks a question of one of the LLMs and your website is used as a citation for the answer, and somebody clicks on that, my experience has been, and this is true with all of them, isn't it, that the UTM parameter, generally speaking, remains intact. And if you're capturing that, and you kind of capture it naturally if you're using any basic analytics tool, you can see like ChatGPT there's a referral source, and the referral source is ChatGPT or Cloud or Perplexity or whatever. So that's a lag indication. And the problem with that, go ahead.
It's not even all of the time. So ChatGPT is the one that is doing that most often, but they are not every time sending these UTM links.
And whose fault is that? Is that ChatGPT's fault? Is that the browser's fault? Is that like why are they dropping?
That's on ChatGPT. They decide what kind of URL sent over to you. AI mode also does this. They do it in a different way. They do redirects. So you click it, and instead of you going through the URL, you go through their property, count the click or something, and go back to the URL. They do something massively different. But
why did they do that? Why are they doing a redirect?
To be able to kind of track the interaction or some source. I think that's what we have been seeing. But the AI mode is so recent that that has its own rules, so it's not a surprise.
And AI mode is just Gemini, right? Are those things different?
Yeah, everything from Google is Gemini, but the wrapper, the function is got its own settings, I think. Because if you go through Gemini, and that's something that happened in our research, we didn't have great results on the Gemini platform for search, at least. It didn't end up giving as many citations, and yeah, so any way that they use Gemini into either Google organic results or AI mode, they will have different features. That's what we have noticed.
It's interesting the way that Google does feel so fractured and fractional. They have all these different tools, but they're not doing a great job until kind of recently. Like they started to bring them. They started to bring them together. Okay, so we'll go back. So sometimes UTM parameters are delivered, sometimes not.
Yeah,
and some LLMs are better than others.
And also UTMs depend on, I think, the privacy settings that you have on the browser. So sometimes that tracking doesn't translate to Google Analytics. So there's data loss in that sense.
Do you think this is going to get better or worse with the agentic browsers?
That's interesting. I have noticed. I saw Aravind Srinivas, the Perplexity CEO, calling out Amazon for blocking their agentic browser.
Yeah, why wouldn't they? It's like, why am I going to help you, especially given that, and I don't know if Perplexity's announced the same thing, but ChatGPT is going to have an in-app shopping cart.
Yeah,
I'm Amazon. I don't want, I'm not going to play nice.
Exactly. They are just playing like the walled garden, as we discussed in other podcasts. They want to own the users from the start to finish.
Right.
I even saw an interesting video of somebody saying, don't put your app in ChatGPT. They are on the same school that as Mark Zuckerberg, which
they're just going to rebuild it in app.
Belongs to Bill Gates' school of get them close, know what they are doing, and copy them, or something like that. They didn't say that, but that's kind of the feel that you get. They want to have everything in app. They are already integrating shopping, and this first set of apps that they are integrating, there's no way that they cannot just create a version just inside their AI in the future.
Yeah. That's an interesting point too about the app creation because ChatGPT does seem to be the most aggressive of all of them in trying to create an ecosystem.
Yeah, they have to be. They are just raising us so much money and showing so little revenue that they have to just push in every direction. I think that's kind of their approach right now.
Yeah, that's
Um,
another reason I'm so long on Google is Google has so much more runway, you know?
Infinitely more, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So UTM parameters are basically non-existent. And the other thing that's interesting about the UTM piece is I don't know what the number is. What would you guess? How many people click on a citation out of 100 searches? How many? And now that's an interesting point too. Is every search, and we shouldn't even say search. We should say query. Every query has on average how many citations? I mean, we've got to know this because of our data,
Over
right? It's
over 20 or 20 average. It
oh,
depends.
yeah. So I mean, it could be two. It could be 20.
No, it's more than 10 most of the times, but yeah, it's a huge number. And they are
Yeah, so
also
100 queries would be 1,000 citations, and the citation that somebody pursues is probably dependent upon how it's positioned, and each LLM positions them differently. I know in
yeah,
that slide deck you made me for my presentation, you included screenshots, and the thing that was hysterical was Google does the worst job of showing citations. They're actually kind of hidden. Like
yeah,
Perplexity, I thought did the best job. ChatGPT was the second best, and Google was the worst. So some of these, some of the tools are choosing to kind of hide citations. And then if you pursue citations, it's not like you're going to click on all 10, you're going to click on one. So out of 100 queries, there's 1,000 citations. Maybe one is clicked.
yeah. I think in my case, I can only talk about my own experiences with certainty. I search a lot of technical questions, really specific things like how do I do this in this software, or
Yeah.
is this software help me doing this specific function? And I like their answers because they are quite confident. They will tell you that, and then and everything will work. AI is perfect at giving you positive answers, but then most of the times or half of the time I will say some of these things might not work. And that's where you would want to go through citations because that's
Mm,
somebody else that is putting their own credibility in play, and they will have that. So I think click through rates will depend on relevance. So
yeah, and the type of query
if
too.
I see the specific topic for my use case being outlined there, I will trust it more than the answer because the answer is pulled from different sources. So it can be more specific, how to's and step by step processes. They can be like hallucinations in there. So for me, it will be relevant. So the more specific my need is, and the more specific I found a source for that specific need, I will default for the citation. Some of the times, of course, it's not going to be 100% click to rate if you just match the question, but there's more chances. So if you
But
have
even then, like, you're not clicking on all 10 citations, you're clicking on the one that's the most relevant. So if you've got 100 searches, half the time you're gonna click on a citation, that's 50 searches, but you're only clicking on 1 out of 10. So out of 500 citations, you're clicking on 50, so that's 10% of the citations, which I think would be high. So all that to say, you're not if your content is cited in an LLM, you're not going to receive traffic. You're not going to know. There's no way to know. So the traffic that you receive is a lag indicator. Maybe you get UTM parameters, probably not, it sounds like, or at least not in every case. Maybe I wonder, is there a way outside of UTM parameters? Is there a way to track referral source?
outside of UTMs, I think the next thing that I would like to explore will be server side actual traffic. So
Yeah.
instead of waiting for somebody to click your site, you will know what type of user it is. If it's a real user, if it's a bot user, recognize a bot.
That was
That would be
that
the
was
best
John
way.
Moran's idea because I called John for those of you listening. John Moran's the greatest Google Ads mind in the world by far, and everybody knows it. Everybody who knows Google Ads knows it. He was my business partner at Solutions 8, went off to go be rich and famous and left me behind. And I called him with this problem. I was, dude, we're trying to launch this agency, and I just don't know how to do this. And he's got the mind for it. And his point was, you can see. crawls. You can see bot activity on your website, so UTM parameters and citation follow through is a lag indicator. The crawls would be a lead indicator. Because if your content is being distributed, to my knowledge, and correct me if I'm wrong, Julian, because I've been saying this, so I need you to correct me because I talk a lot of shit and you have to tell me if it's true. I've been telling everybody that LLMs do not cache content. They crawl content, but they don't have the computing power or the repository to cache. They can't afford to.
Yeah.
That's true, correct?
That comes from I know that that's a fact, at least for Perplexity's case, which is the most advanced answer engine that I can think of. They had a pretty public discussion with Cloudflare, because Cloudflare called them out and told them that they were crawling without avoiding the robots.txt. And their answer was that they are not crawling the web, that they are fetching instead. So that's a different thing. And they just told right out there that if you have a company that is specialized on security and identifying bots, and you cannot distinguish a crawler from a fetcher, you are effectively just a bad company. That's what they call them out for.
That's so
So
funny.
yeah, that's where I got the distinction. So they don't crawl the web. They don't have an index that we know of just yet. But they go fetch the information once that's done. So they are using another thing to gather the results and getting into the information in real time. That's kind of
And we know that from so the change that Google made a month ago where they diminished the results from 100 to 10, the fact that that impacted the ChatGPT results the way that it did is an indication that ChatGPT doesn't have it cached. It has to crawl or fetch. So what's interesting about that is if you can track the crawls on your site, you're getting 1 crawl a month, and then suddenly you're getting 3 crawls a month, and then suddenly you're getting 30 crawls a month, and then 300 crawls a month.
Exactly.
That would have to mean, for some reason, you're more relevant. Something you're doing in the world of AEO is increasing your visibility with answer engines. The problem is you would have no idea what you did that worked, no idea what the time horizon is until you were able to triangulate across multiple clients. So agencies will figure this out before clients will. And you'll have no idea. Like if you have 10 service offerings, you won't necessarily know which offering is the one triggering the fetch. Unless, you'd have to be able to, can you see bot activity on a per page basis?
I think that's possible. I think that's what these requests are visible on the server side, I think. So I think I have to go through that a little bit more in depth and check what actually is being requested. So I think you can go there. You can go specifically what the user is that is entering. Is it an IP or a recognized user bot from an AI company, and what the page is that is requesting at any given time.
Interesting. That's something we need to start tracking now.
Yeah. The tricky thing is that that's done through server logs, and there's services that are surfacing there, but I have yet to know like what their approach is and how well you can implement it on your site. But yeah, that's the thing that I'm really looking into implementing in the future.
Yeah, this is interesting, man. So those are, in my mind, that's all we have. We have lag indication UTM click through. We have lead indication server side activity. And then in the middle, you have anecdotal search. So you can search yourself if you want to, but you're always going to get flawed data. Dude, you can go to Best Buy, buy a brand new computer, fire it up in a remote coffee shop, log in with a dummy account, and then for maybe 48 hours get, general or generic results. But as soon as you search one time, you're building confirmation bias into the algo. So are there any other reporting options in your mind?
Well, we discuss, I think, and this comes from the zero-click marketing kind of logic that we are kind of having to get into. I was watching one of these talks that speak a lot about that. So about how to communicate progress and everything. And they will say like we are back in the billboard times where you will just put one campaign up and measure how much it will lift your sales. Like we are going back to basics in the way that some of these measurements are not complete, accurate, or even possible. So I think we discussed something around branded searches, right? So a branded search could be an interesting way to measure how
That's a
well.
great point. So could the idea there be, and I have had that in my experience a lot. I ask, ChatGPT a question, who's the best auto mechanic in Scottsdale, Arizona for classic Hondas? And then it'll give me these results. And instead of clicking on the citation, I'll actually go Google the name. And so now that mechanic has their branded search query goes up. That's a really strong reason to run branded Google search ads.
Yeah,
Because when your branded search goes up, you're not gonna see that in Search Console until you breach a certain number of people, or excuse me, a certain number of searches, because Search Console shows you aggregate averages over time. But if you're running Google Ads, it'll show you a per impression basis, not even click. And you don't have to spend much on branded search ads if it's your brand, which is interesting. So that's probably the best answer right there is, are we increasing branded search clicks or
exactly.
branded search impressions? Yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah, and also that's something to optimize for, because I see a lot of people tracking your broad queries and everything that will end up in a recommendation of your brand. But if you're not looking at what your brand results are, so you can be just getting information out of anyone else. So you
Mhm.
could be being cited by your competition. So the information that AI is able to take, it will be, hopefully, depending on your site or your properties, your social profiles and all of that. But most people don't look at that really close. And that's kind of the most important thing, accuracy on the things, the facts, the services, pricing, everything that you have to mention, or that people have a question for. You should be the one. You should be the source for your branded queries.
Yeah.
That's for me. I think that's my opinion. You should be the one that is telling out the facts, and not other people on AI.
Uh, That's really good note, dude. So lag indication, UTM tracking and analytics, flawed. Lead indication, bot activity on the front end, valuable, but light in the beginning and signal poor in some instances. And branded search might be the KPI. When I was running Solutions 8, and again, if you're listening, you'll hear me brag about this a lot, but I had the number one ranked Google Ads agency in the world. I had $100 million in ad spend under management. I've spent more of other people's money than most people alive. What we learned the freaking hard way, dude, was if you're going to bring on a client, you have to agree on one KPI, one key performance indicator, one metric. What is the one thing that we agree means we're winning? Because the minute there's two or more, and I mean, when I first started, there could be 10. People are like, oh, we need AOV, LTV, CAC, and we're like, all right, we need all these things to improve. But the minute there's multiple, all the client does is obsess over the one that's down or lowest. And it means you can't win. It's like having 10 different finish lines. You can't win in the race. You know what I mean? So you have to choose the one KPI. And what's hard about that is very often what the KPI the client wants isn't the KPI the client needs. For example, the classic example is leads. Clients would come and be like, I need more leads. I need more leads. I need more leads. And I'm like, why? What if we got you less leads and you made more money? But that, dude, they just cannot wrap their, especially these sales organizations. They're so funny because they've got 30 salespeople they need to feed. They don't even realize they've made these promises to these people, and they have a business built around inefficiency. They're obsessive over leads. They're not obsessive over lead quality. And I dealt with that a lot. And we ended up honestly just not working with those folks. Like we'd weed them out right out of the gate with that question. What's the one KPI? So in the paid ad world, the real KPI should be media efficiency ratio, which I'm pretty sure if John didn't coin the term, he at least popularized it. But it meant for every dollar you put in, how much money are you actually making in your bank account? And the reason that was the KPI is because Google and Meta both lie about the data. If you're running Google ads and running Meta ads and you sell 10 things today, Google says, we sold 8 of those things. And Meta says, we sold 8 of those things, but you didn't sell 16 things. So we knew that they were lying. So you had to play media efficiency ratio in order to account for that. In AEO, on a long enough timeline, the KPI really should be something like brand growth and or ROI, but you really wouldn't be able to measure that for about a year. Divorced of that or sans that, I think the one we would have is brand searches, dude. I think you nailed it. I think that's how I'd sell this. I'd be like, look, we're going to try to get your brand searches up. And if we can, we're winning. And if we're not, we're not.
Yeah.
And what's cool about that, especially if you're paying for the traffic, it just occurred to me, I can't run paid traffic. I have a 5-year non-compete. So I'd have to advise the clients to run paid traffic, but our agency couldn't do it. Let me say that out loud in this podcast recording. I'm not violating my non-compete. if you're running paid traffic, you would be able to track the conversion value of that branded traffic. And so you would actually be able to get really close to understanding the value of this increase in brand traffic. And the thing that would suck about it, though, is because AEO is multivariant, multimodal, and all that garbage, we're going to be doing press releases. We're going to be doing social. Hopefully, you're doing traditional media, too, by the way. I don't know why people stopped. Radio, television, newspapers still work, believe it or not. And you're never going to know which of those really was responsible for increasing the brand directly. And chances are there isn't one, right? It's multivariant. But I think you really just cracked the code there, dude. Good job. If you're listening to this, that's where I think I just landed. I'm not ready to die on that hill yet. Again, I'd love to talk to the reporting tool companies. So I know Neil Patel's got some. I got a lot of respect for Neil. I got to meet Neil. He and I did an interview together when I was the host of Perpetual Traffic. Really good dude. Really smart. Like way smarter than me by 1 billion times. And Neil, if you're listening, I just don't see how your shit works. Like I can't, based off of my understanding and really smart people that I know and everything that I've read, there's no way to track it. So I'd love to talk to you. I'm not calling you out, but I am asking for an explanation if you have one. Who else has reporting tools that we would want to talk to? Anybody that you'd name by name?
AI visibility tools?
Yeah.
There's like 100 now.
Yeah. So if you've got a good one, I don't want to talk to some dipshit who's just trying to get on AppSumo and doesn't have any customers, right? You have to have like a tax relevant number of customers, and you have to be able to prove or show or have some metrics behind this. And we'll have you on the show and we can duke it out. And hopefully, we'll stay respectful. I'm not sitting here trying to play gotcha with anybody. As a matter of fact, we'll give you, what would you call it? Last right of approval on the episode, just so you don't feel like you're going to hop on here and I'm going to play, Tucker Carlson with you and like try to get a bunch of just screen grabs of people being mad at me. Anyway, Julian, thanks for your time today, dude. As always, you're doing such a great job with the community. If you don't know, Julian runs a 5-person data team that's done nothing for the last year but try to research how LLM sources citations, has tens of millions of data points, wrote a best-selling book. You can have the book for free. You can join the school community for free. Just go to AEO.co/free. AEO.co/free. Learn everything that we have to teach. Download the book for free. There's free courses. There's a lot of really, really cool stuff. There's over 1,000. How many people are in the community now? 1,300?
1,200 right now.
I'm looking at it, 1,226. Dude, that's a big deal. Look at that. Good for you.
I know that.
If you're listening, like, comment, subscribe, do all the things that podcasts require of you. Share this with other people. If you disagree with me, by the way, I'd love to know. Be respectful. Don't be a douchebag. Some people say mean things to me, dude. I've had some weird comments. I like to talk about like how long my neck is or why I won't cut my hair. Like there's no reason for that. You can disagree with me without making me feel bad about myself. Otherwise, we'll catch you in the next episode. Thanks for listening. Thank you for tuning in to the AEO Show. Do you want to learn how your brand can become the answer for AI engines like ChatGPT, Perplexity, and Gemini? Join our free forever community at AEO.co/free and get access to research, tools, and live discussions that will keep you ahead of what's next. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave a review because the future of search is already changed.